Welcome, everybody. Today is, it's November 18th. Look at that. Welcome to the IC Topic Chats. Today, we will be talking about showing appreciation. We have this panel with Ann Price, Kamala, Sivalingam, and Komani. You know what? I'm not going to get you. I'm not going to try your last names. We're just going to go first names with Ann, Kamala, and Komani. There we go. Because I think if I try and say everybody's last names, I'm going to say them all wrong. So welcome. And I'm excited to have this session. As I've said many times before, I do these sessions for everybody's benefit, but definitely for my own benefit, because I ask a lot of questions that I think other people are curious about and that I don't know about either, because I don't know the best way to show appreciation to others. So I'm just going to be completely transparent and saying, I'm using this for my own personal benefit. And I hope you guys are too, because it's really great to have a panel like this. So I asked all of our panelists, and actually I'm going to ask you guys to do a really short introduction again, just for the purposes of the video. I know you've already done it when we get started. But then as you do that, why don't you also address the first question that I have for you in the panelist questions. So why don't we start with Ann, give a little bit of a background to yourself, and then talk a little bit about this, and then we'll go to Komani and Kamala.
Okay, well, hi again, everybody. My name is Ann Price. I am a community psychologist and evaluator based in Georgia, just outside Atlanta. I own Community Evaluation Solutions, and I founded my business in 2004. I have been a member of AEA since 1999. I had to look that up the other day because I was really curious. I'm also curious as to why Matt isn't on this panel, because Matt has sent me a Starbucks gift card. He sent me a challenge coin from STEM camp. So Matt's actually the king of appreciation. So anyway, let me, so my first reaction, Matt, when I saw this question is approach. That makes it sound like a strategy. And I don't really have an approach. I just try to be grateful every day and just try to show that in everything I do. So I try to give back to my field. And by that, I mean, AEA is my professional home. Even though I'm a community psychologist, I'm a member of APA and SCRA, which is our division of APA. AEA is my home. So I step up in leadership and I volunteer. I hold my office hours, which some of you may know about, and I'll put a link to that in the chat. We're going to meet tomorrow, and I'll be in the hot seat. We'll be talking about probably this topic and going on into next year. I have been known to send flowers or little gifts to downtrodden colleagues, one of whom is on this call. I host an annual lunch / dinner for my folks that I work with who are local. We always do a welcome and a goodbye lunch to my RAs and my staff that have worked with me before. Of course, as some of you know, I'm transitioning out of having staff and having 1099s. But yeah, I would just say my approach is just to have an attitude of gratitude. So that would be it for me.
Go ahead, Komani.
Like, are we going to keep going in the order? Hi, I'm Komani Lundquist from Via Evaluation out of Buffalo, New York. We are an 18-person evaluation firm, mostly in the K-12 space, but moving into more public health and related stuff. As far as your approach to showing appreciation, I really hear what you're saying, Ann, in that like it might be strategic, but I actually, my opinion on this question is that it is a strategic move, right? As a business owner or a consultant, showing appreciation is a strategy that I think you should be implementing. I do think you should be sending thank you cards, gifts when not expected, showing your gratitude even in meetings. I think a lot of the work that we've been doing recently, as we kind of, as myself as a leader developing myself, is learning more how to be someone who listens deeply, and that actually being a gratitude contribution, that I'm holding space for other people and not dominating certain conversations. So ironically, I'm here on a panel speaking a lot, but I also think that that's sort of like an appreciation that you can show it really is an activity that you do on a daily basis, in every meeting that you have, even being here, showing gratitude for all of you and just saying it. So for me, I guess there is a strategy, which is that I try to live it every day, but then also take time to go out of my way to think of nice little things. I have another group that I'm kind of the facilitator of, and I wanted to do something nice. And so I sent them all from my hometown a bundt cake, which was great until I realized somebody was gluten-free and was like, oh no. But it was really touching to them. People are really surprised. So I think that that's my approach, is to really have it be a regular thing that I think about. And one last thing on that is that, and this might come up later, but I also think it starts with myself and writing my own gratitude lists in the morning. I've been doing that as a practice this year and finding it really helps me remember just who I am grateful for.
I love that you shared that. I feel like what's been shared so far is just around having just a general lifestyle around gratitude. So I really appreciate that. I also kind of carry that practice myself. It's one of my healthy habits. I have kind of a healthy habits list of different things to really, start off my day and have me in my best place. And one of those is
Matt,
journaling
sorry.
or just.
We can see your screen, Matt.
Oh, one of them is just, thanks for that, Komani. Yeah, one of that is actually just journaling and making sure that I am aware of what it is that I have, that I am very grateful for. And then as far as my approach to showing appreciation, I think it happens throughout the year. And I think of the different things that we can invest in our teams, in our communities, with our clients, and kind of bigger things top of mind as I was reflecting on this question. One is money, another is time, and another is recognition. And so when it comes to money, I think of the consultants that I have with my firm. And whenever we have different projects, when we bid on these projects and we talk about what feels comfortable to them, what rates they want to be paid for their work, it's very, very important for me that my team feels valued, because I myself want to feel valued. And I think that I've been in too many spaces before, predominantly white spaces too, where I felt undervalued or not paid what I felt I was worth for certain things. And so I've done my due diligence. I've done all the research to understand what are competitive rates for different levels of evaluators, and based on, degrees and experience and what makes sense within the cultural and country context where people are based. That's how we kind of make sure that they're paid a fair rate. And then I'm also just very transparent about what is perhaps the gap between what a team member is paid and then what we are charging clients for their service, so that when people walk into the space with our firm, they kind of understand and feel acknowledged and can kind of share how they feel. Because for me, I think long term, a lot of the times it's important that people know that we're invested in them and will stay with us over time. And so I think that's kind of something in that same space around money and valuing people and paying them what they're worth. I'd say this goes even further than just our subcontractors, with my accountant, with anybody that I seek any sort of legal help. I always, ask for their rates and try to better understand what they are. And if I feel like they're under the market rate, then I'm willing to pay a little bit of a premium, because I think that it's just kind of how I feel also, that everything is connected in a way. I just feel like the energy that you give out is the energy that you get back. And so anytime someone says, oh, wow, I'm surprised you're going to pay me this much or whatnot, I say, yes, because I value your work and I want people to value my work as well. And then I'd say in that same space, kind of related to time, is investing in relationships. And so not only with consultants that I want to work with within my firm, but also when partnering with other companies, other organizations, I think it's important to invest in those relationships and do it in a way that's responsive to that culture. So I haven't mentioned before, but I have both Colombian roots and Hindu Malaysian roots. So on the Colombian side, one of our biggest business partners that's actually based out there right now, they really value just having time together. And so when we've set up these meetings where either they are here or I'm there, and we're going to do some time for business meetings, I'd say if they're here for 2 or 3 days, most of that time is just for us to go out to restaurants and get to know each other better and be generous with one another. And so that's always a very neat experience. And then I'd say with my clients, a lot of times just being appreciative of them by also giving them that kind of space or that time. So I just appreciate the idea of, beyond our contract, sometimes just checking in with them and asking them how that project is going. Taking the time to send them an email or send them a card. I actually have right now I have about 30 envelopes that are all stamped. And I don't know who they're all going to go out to or if all of them are going to go out, but they're ready. And I try to make everything ready so that it's easy for me to write these cards and just make them very personalized. And sometimes I do gifts, but they won't be a big gift. Maybe it's a book or something that's very intentional with the person. And I thought that would be interesting for this group, because depending on your position, you don't have to have a lot of funds in order to do a lot. It really is about the thought. And I think the more intentional that we are in the way that we show appreciation, people respond very, very well to that. And so that it helps you feel better. I feel like it elevates your own energy and your own, relationship with folks, but it also kind of just strengthens that relationship. And then finally, the last piece I said was around recognition. And so recognition or just giving feedback, positive and both constructive feedback, I think is really important. And so just trying to keep that flow as much as possible, asking other folks for their feedback on how it is working with me, but also providing feedback. The good feedback, and I even would say that the more challenging kind, the constructive feedback, is worth gold. And so I try to be intentional and kind when I have more difficult things to say. And I always really, really value the people who give me feedback and tell me how I can improve or be a better contractor, or a better business partner or lead or consultant or whatever capacity we're in. I just think having that channel of communication and giving feedback and sort of recognition is really important.
Komani, you said something earlier about unexpected gifts. What is it about unexpected gifts that are special? What is it? What are your thoughts around that?
I think that's just as Kamala was saying, building and strengthening relationships are remembering people in odd moments. So I had a terrible thing happen this week. We had to put our dog down. And so of course we're having this outpouring of love from people that we care about and who care about us. But it's overwhelming and all at once, and it's not allowing any one person to stand like above the bunch. Not that I should have favorites or something, but that's how it works, right? And so when somebody thinks of you at an odd time, another thing that happened was that this would be an example of that is I had a nanny who hadn't nannied us since before COVID had hit for my 2 children. She just babysat here and there, but she was really kind. And I don't know, 4 or 5 months into COVID, which was a difficult time as a parent, if you were one during that time, and for everybody for other reasons, sent me a card, and she had drawn up on just a piece of paper, something like, "You're fucking killing it." And, like, "Way to go, mom," and I was just so touched because it had nothing to do with a holiday or anything. It was just like a clear reaching out, and like I felt that a lot more than the way that I'm kind of overwhelmingly feeling the outpouring of love now. So I just think that it's really has a bigger impact in those times.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. My mute button won't turn off. I don't know. I think you can hear me, but the mute button still says I'm muted. So I have additional questions, and I know some of you've hit on these, so I'm just going to bring them up, and if they resonate with you and you want to answer them, I'm not going to make everybody go through a list. Do that. I know you all had a chance to read these ahead of time, but I guess who do you include? And I think that Kamala started to talk about different people that she includes. And full disclosure, I always think I need to make sure to take care of the people who clean my building and who provide maintenance to my building, because as we often say, that's usually the people who really run the show, right? Because they, and you're all, I've heard once before, the way that you treat the least of us is really an indicator of how great a person you are, or something along those lines. But I guess I'm curious, who do you include on your lists?
I think for me, I have a very, I think I do have kind of a clear idea, just as I saw the question, but I think first, anyone who works for me, so anybody that I pay in some way or form, is definitely on this list. And so, like I said, the accountant, subcontractors, legal counsel, all of them would definitely be someone included in this list of, showing appreciation. I'd say other businesses, especially, I found this community just so helpful. As a newer business, being able to reach out and ask how to solve certain issues and, how to go about creating my first, subcontractor agreement or business partnership agreement, different things that I didn't know. And so just making sure that I tell these people that I'm very grateful for them. And then our clients, obviously, I think they're also another group that I try to be intentional and show appreciation in some way.
I think it's probably easier to ask who's not on the list than who is, right? Because all of those people, I just think about when I first started having full-time employees, and I couldn't have built the business I had without, my younglings who came in and, just really dug deep and did such great work and were willing to learn all those things. And it's just such a joy to see them, even though they didn't typically stay very long, a couple of years, it's a joy to watch them fly the nest. So I would, and I didn't mention that before, but I do a lot of like speaking in classes. I get asked to speak about evaluation. I get asked for informational interviews all the time from folks who are getting started. I've got 2 letters of recommendations that I need to write. So I try to show my appreciation in that way. But who's not on the list? Let me get back to who's not on the list. The only group I could think about would be my clients' funders, right? I am not going to send a thank you note to the CDC for funding my client. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, that was the only.
I hear that, Ann.
That's the only thing. I mean, I got a piano for a number 3 son, and I tipped the piano movers, right? That's a hard job. That's down a hill. So kind of to your point, Matt, about thinking about those folks who, scrub the toilet in your office. Of course, that was me in my office. Anyway, yeah. Who do you not thank?
I'm on board with there's very few people that should not be on your list. And I think it's sort of the relationship between showing appreciation and kindness and being a kind and caring person in your community. I think about the book, The Fred Factor. He's a mailman in the book, and he goes above and beyond being a mailman, right? Like he remembered that a man regularly left on business trips and held his mail just because he knew that he was gone, and just constantly found ways to be like a good person. And it didn't pay him direct dividends, but everybody knew his name, kind of thing. And I think that as a consultant, or really anybody, that's one of your key factors that's going to make you successful, is whether you can be a kind person. I think you forget the ripple effect of your actions. And often it's those funny ways that are the things that get you a client. Somebody had heard through the grapevine that I was like a great employer, which I am so grateful they heard, which was amazing. Asked me to come and present about being an employer to a local women in as attorneys group, and how to kind of deal with working parents. I presented to the group. One of the attorneys was on the board of a local foundation charity group that had a program, and they hired us within a year. And so it was sort of like one of those things that you never know that what the impact was going to be. And I didn't get paid for that presentation or anything. I was just happy to go and support and give my information because I really think that that's what works. So I don't see anybody as not being on the list. That said, I do know if you're going to give money or have financial or large amount of time investment in what your appreciation means, I definitely think you can't have an exhaustive list. You can't just give everybody $20 when you see them, right? So I have another company friend that I know, and their marketing firm, and what they do is it's the people they paid, and it's the people that paid them every year. And so you just go through your vendors list, the people you paid, and then the people who gave you money, right? It's where the money flowed. And you're not on the list. Like if you didn't hire them that year to do marketing, you didn't get anything. But if you did, even for $100, they sent the most interesting and fun, their marketing firm, personalized gifts. One year it was chocolate bars that had Komani on the label. Another year it was a couple of bottles of wine that was like Komani's wine. It was really cool that they really, it was thank you for being our client this year. We value you as our client. Thank you for paying us money, right? It was very much that. So I think that if you're looking for a list of who specifically, if you want to gift a gift, or make a specific financial thank you, where the money flowed is probably a good place to start.
And I feel like we were walking into the budget. How do you set a budget? So I didn't know if you wanted to continue with that, Komani.
Well, budgeting is a fun process. And I think a lot of people think that budgeting is like a science, and it's mostly, I apologize, I swear all the time, it's a wild ass guess. We call it a WAG, right? It's a wild ass guess, right? So you have to think about your business, your cost of overhead. You have to look at your whole budget and figure out how much money do you have to do whatever you want to do. Each year you have to set some money for marketing maybe, or whatever. And I would consider this within your marketing or advertisement budget. We've also put sometimes, we call it, we literally created an expense item, because what gets like measured matters, right? So you might want to make a specific budget line for appreciation or thank yous. We have one called healthy workforce expense. And that's where we are investing in our team in thank yous, healthy initiatives, and we wanted to measure it. So what gets measured matters. And so we did have a specific line budget item. You could come up with a formula, I'm sure, for a percent of how much you got from a client, or just like a flat cost system. It's honestly, you're going to have to look at your whole budget. The argument, I think, for what your marketing budget is supposed to be in general, like a rule of thumb is like, I think it's supposed to be 10% of your total budget, which sounds like a lot to me, but that could be a factor. But I do think that it pays its dividends. So curious what others have to say.
Well, my CPA would tell you that $25 is your limit.
For a person or for everybody?
For a corporate gift, right? So I'm still trying to figure out how my husband got a bottle of, what is that blue label, the whiskey? Anyway, you can tell I'm not a whiskey drinker, whatever it is. Yeah. The real expensive stuff that's like $200 a bottle. I'm not quite sure how they got away. Thank you, Johnny Walker Blue. Thanks, Tina. That's it. It's still sitting under my cabinet because I'm sorry, it tastes like peat moss, which I know it's supposed to, but that's what she says. So if I want to buy a gift, I may or may not expense it to the business. Just saying.
This is an interesting thing that you're bringing up here, and Kamala, feel free to chime in on this question or the one I'm about to ask, but are there people you can't gift things to? I'm thinking, or think it's inappropriate. Like, I know I went to a meeting in Washington, DC, and I gave literally a pen. It was a nicer pen, and this is just an example of a free pen. And this program officer from the US Department of Education asked me how much it cost. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, well, I think I might have paid about $1.50 per pen or something like that. I didn't, but she was very sensitive about it. So I also, I'm very careful to know who I can give something to, because there are gifting rules. And so, I mean, just another quick aside, I did give a challenge coin to the individual who presses the button that pays me hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And that's all he basically does is he presses the button. And I met with him when I was in Chicago because he seems really interested in our program. And so I gave him a challenge coin, and I was very transparent. And I said, this challenge coin is not worth anything except for, symbolic worth. And for somebody in the military or former military, it means a lot, but it's not, you can't get any money, you can't sell it for anything. So, but anyway, I guess the point was, are there people you can't get things to, and who are those people? And I've given my examples. And Kamala, I didn't give you a chance to answer any of these questions. So if you wanted to answer it, go right ahead, Kamala.
Sure. Yeah, no, I wasn't. I think I actually, that's one of my fears is gifting to somebody that I'm not supposed to. Before I got into more of my consulting practice, I worked at a bank, and I remember that there were some clients or folks who wanted to give me gifts, and I just remember it was a weird or awkward relationship, or if it was food, something that wasn't as valuable, that was fine, but we did definitely have like a dollar amount. So I'll be honest and very frank, I haven't actually, like with my clients, I've sent maybe thank you cards and other things, but I haven't given them like a physical gift yet.
I've definitely done the pen swag kind of thing. And it would just occur to me, this hadn't occurred to me prepping for this call, but is there an ethical line when we're thanking clients, right? Because we don't ever want them to, we don't ever want to be in the situation where the relationship is so blurred that we can't be that critical consultant that they've hired us to be, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in getting to know my clients, maybe too much. I admit that, but when it comes to money and gifts, but I tell you, we have had, I've hosted like lunches in my office for my local clients. We do that. I'll occasionally pay for a meal if we're at a conference together. I will do that kind of thing. But, is there a line that we cannot cross? What is that? And what does that look like in terms of giving? I don't know. Just another question.
Komani, did you have some reflections?
Yeah, we have absolutely clients. I posted it in the chat. Basically, any school district we're not allowed to gift to, and so they don't get gifts that are of monetary value. And we find other ways to thank them. But yeah, we can't even take them out for lunch, can't buy them food. There's nothing there's just not really anything you can do. But, I think you've said this a lot of times, Anne, that a handwritten card goes a really long way. And so we are really pretty consistent about actually printing holiday cards and having them be a little bit fun and goofy and actually signing them and saying like handwritten to hundreds of people, but it matters, I think. And people, it's funny, we've had clients who keep those up on their bulletin boards for years. Like we have one that's like has a card from 10 years ago on their board. It's like, okay, cool.
I was gonna ask you guys that, because we definitely send Christmas cards. We absolutely do. And I know more people that are moving to well, I'm not, I'm gonna go green. I'm not gonna send out cards. Call me old, but I am a big believer in that handwritten card where we all sign it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. There's e-cards, there's other things, but I agree. There's just something about the handwritten card that comes to their mailbox, and I think it just gives them that little rush of dopamine.
I think we're kind of meandering our way through this conversation, but something I really heard that struck me is that your way of showing appreciation, kindness, and gratitude is like your thumbprint. It needs to be who you are. And if you aren't a handwritten note kind of person, like don't send handwritten notes. But if you're like a Gen Z, like send a TikTok video, because that's going to be what's right for you, right? Or maybe not, I don't know. But I think that it's really important that we're going to give you lots of ideas today, I hope, for everyone who's here. But again, I think we've talked about this in other sessions. You have to be authentically you. And so I love the handwritten card. I do think it still makes a statement, but I do think that it's a generational difference that it relates to some people and not others.
I think Komani just called me old.
I'm still-
Komani, I like the handwritten card too.
I saw that reel you did the other day, girl.
I'm trying to be cool.
I didn't see the
Well,
reel. We need a posting on that now. I just full disclosure, I can't see the chat. It goes away when I have the closed captioning on for some reason. But so you're gonna have to share that with me later, or I think it might download when I finish.
Well, I was gonna say Lenore put in the chat that for appreciation, she's received a donation on her behalf for a cause that she supports. And Susan said, when you can't buy, when you're limited for whatever reason for gifts, using small gifts like chocolates, lunch, or maybe some flowers. So I just wanted to get that in because that was in the chat.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. The cards are a cheap way to say thank you when maybe you have no budget for this sort of thing. You just go buy thank you cards at the dollar store. I mean, I think that goes a long way. And you can go to Dollar Tree and find, I know I've done this. So totally, you can do that. We, last year for Valentine's Day, and this is kind of leading into the next question, but it was just crazy like Christmas, holiday, December, it was a blur, and we didn't even think to thank anybody until we got through to January. And I thought, okay, we need to do something here. So we sent out Valentine's Day cards to a lot of our clients and colleagues last year. And I never heard much back. I heard a couple things back, but not much. But I thought that was an effective way to do it. So I guess my question to you is this just a December holiday thing, or do you do it all times a year? What are some of your ideas and approaches? Anybody?
Kamala, you want to go?
Oh, I can speak up real quick. I think that there's a little bit of two things going on. I already spoke to doing things at irregular times, and that might advantage you in the sense of being unique. But I also think there's like a certain amount of like expected in the holiday time. So we've talked a lot about like appreciating clients. I have a team of staff, and it's like so played out, but they like actually really appreciate a holiday financial gift bonus of some kind. And honestly, I've given as little as 100 and plus, but it really does seem to make a difference around the holidays. People have a bigger financial issues at that time, and it does seem to be something that's really well appreciated and people are very grateful for. But of course, it's set me in a precedent of now I have to do it. So that's something to think about. But yeah, so I guess that's what I'll say about.
So you've set a precedent, and so now you are expected to do that. So okay, it's a good thing to think about.
And now you're locked in, but in the best of ways. People are very grateful for that, I bet. I'd say for me, kind of just, what we've saying throughout the conversation, just this being a very ongoing thing that happens throughout the year. But just personally, for me, Christmas is my favorite holiday of the entire year. So I feel like I really get in the spirit with my family, with my friends, then around my business, anything related to my business, the folks who I work with. And so I have to be careful. And when I do send out cards, though, it's usually kind of like wishing people peace or serenity and not so much a Merry Christmas, even though we celebrate that in my family. I have seen people kind of trip up a bit about what to say around the holidays. And I've just seen people really handle that with grace sometimes. So maybe if you forgot somebody and you wish them a holiday that they don't celebrate, and then they tell you about it, just handling it with grace and saying, I apologize, my mistake. So I've seen that done really well. I've seen that not done too well also. So I try to be a little bit neutral, but still get something out there on this end of season.
Yeah, we definitely send more. I said Christmas, but we definitely send more holiday cards. I'm not going to send a Christmas card to my ex-supervisor who I know is Jewish, for example. That would not be very respectful, right? But the other thing that that I try to do throughout the year is to share articles and resources for whatever. Like, so if I know there was one time a couple of years ago where I found there was an article that I was reading on foundation evaluation. I sent that to a foundation president. Next thing I know, I'm presenting to the evaluators roundtable at the foundation. So I didn't do that for that purpose. It was more like, hey, this is a really interesting article. I thought you would like it. And Matt, you know what this all reminds me? This reminds me of your networking karma session.
Yep. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I didn't want to pitch it too hard, but I will say, I think it's tomorrow that the AEA 365 on networking karma comes out. So if you guys are interested about what Ann's talking about, we did have a session about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, and it's kind of summarized in the AEA 365 tomorrow. Yeah. So but I think the point in all of that is we put good things out in the world without any expectations of anything coming back, but invariably great things happen because we were just good people trying to help everyone out. And that's really the big idea, right?
There's also kind of along the lines of what these two were saying about sharing articles and keeping in touch with people in those relationships. There is software available, and I full disclosure, I do not use it, but I have friends who do. There's one called Cloze, CLOZE. And what it does is it like maps together all your emails and communications, and then it'll tell you like who you haven't reached out to recently. You can like prioritize groups of people, and it will tell you and remind you to reach out to them or connect with them because it's been a while kind of thing. And I really meant to do this at one point and never got my act together to do it, but it is a cool feature. And I know there's other resources, but something to think about if you're feeling like you're not doing a great job at that. It's like there are reminder systems and software out there that you can get that will help you remember to spend time on your relationships.
I mean, this is social network analysis. This is a science here. What we're talking about, it feels like it's some sort of like touchy-feely thing. It's not. I mean, the reality is we're developing relationships with people within a niche of where we want to work, and through those connections, we have opportunities for additional connections and opportunities down the road. But if you get too sciencey about it, it feels less real, I think it makes more sense. I think we're gonna get in, we talked about employee bonuses, so I'm gonna skip through that one unless anybody has anything they want to share. And I think ROI, I think that one was one that was suggested by the panel. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about return on investment.
Well, Komani suggested that question, so I'm curious.
I'm curious. Yeah, I want to listen.
Well, I was really excited to hear everybody's thoughts on this, but what does everybody know? ROI stands for return on investment. There's even like an evaluation. There's a whole framework that is like literally how to measure the return. Anyway, I think that one needs to ask yourself if what you're doing is making a difference, because I think that often, and I'm not sure if I said this yesterday or the day before, but something that happens with consultants is we're perfectionistic and it's easy to work too hard. And I'm all about people like working smart, not hard, being efficient, very action-oriented kind of person. And so when I talk about ROI, I really want you guys to think, okay, I'm sending all these cards. How much time am I spending? And am I getting anything from it? Now, that sounds in contrary to what I said before, which is like, be nice always. But also we do have to be intentional with our time. It's the resource that is most limited, right? And if you are billing by the hour, which I also don't recommend, you're literally spending money. So you have to think of yourself as I'm like making a dollar investment that way as well. So you may have a line item on your budget of like how much you'll spend on cards, but the time that you spend signing them and these sorts of things, you need to say like, I'm willing to do that, or I want to make that a kind of investment. And again, it's going to be personal fingerprint for each person, but you do want to be able to say, this is when I saw that come through. Here's where these actions make sense. Because, for example, this is not exact. I mean, some of you have mentioned like gifting pens or other swag, but I actually find that like my swag does very little. Like I've done a lot of different things over the years. I've tried a lot of different things. And I've never once gotten something from like gift. Oh, there we go. We've got swag. I've presented at conferences and done tabling and given away tons of stickers, like funny stickers and all sorts of things. Nobody's ever called my business because of one of those stickers or me giving them a business card. It was about me like actually developing a relationship with them. I just went to the GPA conference, which Matt sometimes goes to. Yeah. And I used to like have this idea that it's like, I just needed to meet a lot of people and get them my card and it was going to make a difference for my business. And what I realized is if I like make one friend the whole conference, that is actually going to be the thing that will turn me around. So when we talk about return on investment, I just mean using your time wisely to invest in the relationships and the thank you and the whatever it is that's going to actually contribute to where you're trying to go.
I'm aware of the fact that we're at about 12:58 Eastern or 11:58 Central or whatever time it is where you are, 58. So maybe we can just do a quick wrap up, kind of go down the line. And if you have any suggestions over and above what you've already said, why don't you start, Ann?
Yeah, I guess I would just say in following up on the ROI, when that question came through, I literally said, who cares? Because I don't. I really don't. I don't think I'm back to where I started. To me, it's just put kindness out there and it will come back to you in spades.
I think as far as kind of a closing thought for me is that based on your circumstances where you're at, that's, take stock of where you're at and what you can do within that space. And so I think of when I was a student, how much I also invested in relationships that led to work opportunities and using that same skill now as a business owner, right, to continue to do that. And so I had a colleague of mine, we both worked with the UN Development Program, and he was a consultant that they hired for so many different projects. And he just shared his networking tip to me and his way of appreciating folks. He said that no matter how small the thing is, you may think that there's nothing you can contribute at this point, or you may not be in a place in your career where there's something you can give or do. He said, but there always is, and so calling on some examples that have been mentioned here, but you can always send people resources, if you're reaching out to someone like Ann, to get advice around how to develop your business, or somebody who's more experienced than you can also ask them, how can I support you? Is there an area that you're really passionate about? Because I bet you that there's some skill that you have that you can also share with other folks too. And so a part of appreciation, I think, is also just is that give and take also relationship. So.
Any final thoughts, Komani?
No, I just think that finding ways to reach out to people. So specific events, like if you see on LinkedIn someone's gotten a promotion, an award, it's their birthday, that's an easy thing to celebrate. You can send an email, you can send a text message. Even better if you can show your face, right? I'm all about you trying to use technology. So create a video. I just did this for my niece the other day. I made a little video and all I did was say, happy birthday. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And she loved it. She loved it. And she gets to keep that. So I would recommend trying.
Okay, well, we're right at the hour. We're a minute past. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody. If anybody has anything they want to share in the chat with regards to sessions, I think we saw Komani's session. She has that once a month, and we saw Ann Price's office hours. So feel free to add those to the chat. With that, I do want to show appreciation to my panelists and say thank you very much for attending today, and all of you who show up on a weekly basis and participate both in live and by the YouTube. I know you guys watch it, a lot of you guys watch it, and you're not here live with us today, and so I want to share that I appreciate you too. With that, we will be back in 2 weeks. We're going to take next week off for Thanksgiving, and then we'll have a couple of sessions before we go break for the holidays, and then we'll have a whole bunch of new slate of ideas next year. So thanks. See everybody later. Bye-bye.